Some of the most famous strains in the world were created on purpose, the result of breeders spending years carefully planning the perfect cross. But every now and then, the greatest creations happen to be complete accidents, born from a chance mistake nobody saw coming. And that's exactly the story of one of the most beloved heavy indicas ever grown. It came from a plant that wasn't supposed to get pollinated at all in a cramped Los Angeles apartment back in the 90s. And that one happy accident ended up creating a legend that smokers have chased ever since. This is the story of Bubba Kush. Now I have to be upfront with you right away, because nobody really knows the true origins of Bubba Kush. It's the kind of story that's been argued about for decades. And it's not just Bubba Kush. A lot of the early history of weed is like this, since it all happened underground, back when nobody was keeping official records. But the most widely told story comes from the man credited with making it, a grower who went by the nickname Bubba, real name Matt Berger. And he first told this story on the record in High Times magazine in October of 2013. Now, to be honest with you, we cannot prove every single detail, but what he said is the closest thing to an official account that exists. So, to understand how it happened, you have to go back to the mid-1990s first and follow Matt Bubba Berger as he traveled across the country. The story goes that he was a grower down in Florida who had a couple of special plants he'd been holding on to. One was a short, stocky little plant he had personally nicknamed Bubba, which he named after his own nickname. And the other was a cut he simply called Kush, which would actually go on to become the legendary OG Kush. But in 1996, he decided to move to Los Angeles and bring those plant clippings with him, reportedly smuggling them across the country, tucked inside a rollerblade boot in his carry-on luggage. And it was those two plants, sitting in the same room once he got to LA, that set the stage for the accident that changed everything. And it didn't take long for those two plants to make history, because not long after he landed in Los Angeles, the famous accident happened in that tight, crowded grow space he was sharing with a friend. So what happened was one of the Kush plants got stressed out, and when a cannabis plant gets stressed enough, it can actually turn into a hermaphrodite, meaning it develops both male and female parts. And that's probably the most important part to this whole story, because that stressed out Kush plant ended up accidentally pollinating the Bubba plant. Nobody planned it, nobody wanted it, it just happened. And the seeds that came from that unplanned union grew into something nobody had ever tasted before. They had accidentally created Bubba Kush. And the way the world found out about it is a great little piece of the legend too, because it ties right into hip-hop history. His roommate in Los Angeles was connected to the group Cypress Hill, the legendary rap group known for loving weed more than just about anybody. So the story goes, when Be Real from Cypress Hill came by to grab some of that Bubba, he found those accidental seeds mixed into his bag. So those seeds got planted, and just like that, Bubba Kush was out there. And Cypress Hill got so attached to it that it became part of their whole story, even tied to their classic weed song, Dr. Green Thumb. So that's where the name comes from, and it's not complicated at all. The Bubba half comes from that little plant Matt named after himself, and Bubba is just an old Southern nickname, basically a friendly way of saying brother. The Kush half comes from the Hindu Kush, those mountains over by Afghanistan, where these heavy, hard-hitting indicas first come from. And that's not just a fun fact, because that Afghani background is a big reason Bubba Kush hits as hard as it does. It's actually one of the only things anybody can agree on with this strain, since the rest of its story is such a mess. So in the end, the name is really just a person and a place, Bubba and the Kush Mountains, put together. Now here's where I have to be honest with you again. Because while that name is simple, the actual genetics of Bubba Kush are a genuine mystery that experts still argue over to this day. The reason it's so disputed comes down to one important fact. The original Bubba Kush was never turned into stable seeds you could just buy and grow. It only survives as a clone, meaning a clipping taken directly from that original plant, which makes its true family tree almost impossible to verify. So you'll hear a few different theories. Some say that mystery plant was related to Northern Lights, another classic indica. Others are convinced it was a pure Afghani plant, and some even claim it traces back to a strain called bubblegum. There's even a theory floating around that involves genetics sometimes referred to as West Coast dog. The honest truth is that nobody can say for certain, and that mystery is just part of its legend. What we do know is that the OG Kush parent had chemdog genetics running through it, and that's one of the reasons the whole Bubba Kush family tree stays so tangled and debated. But here's the thing that really matters, and the reason it didn't need a fancy pedigree to become a legend, because the experience of smoking it speaks for itself. Bubba Kush is the definition of a classic, heavy indica, and interestingly enough, it's not actually about huge THC numbers, since it usually tests somewhere in the high teens to low 20s, which is solid, but not crazy by today's standards. The magic is in the effect, because it delivers this deeply relaxing, sedating, heavy body high that melts you right into the couch. We're talking full couch lock, the real deal, the kind of heavy that makes standing up feel like a negotiation. It's the ultimate nighttime smoke, the kind of thing you reach for when you want to crush stress, kill pain, or finally get a good night's sleep. It basically knocks you out in the best possible way. And the flavor is every bit as iconic as the high, which is a huge part of why people fell so in love with it. Instead of the fruity or gassy flavors a lot of strains have, Bubba Kush tastes rich and decadent, like a cup of coffee mixed with dark chocolate, with these earthy, hashy, almost sweet and spicy notes layered underneath. That flavor profile comes straight from the terpenes, and Bubba Kush is dominated by caryophyllene and myrcene, with a touch of limonene, which is exactly the combination that creates that signature earthy coffee warmth you taste in every hit. It's a cozy, comforting kind of flavor that perfectly matches that relaxing high. And it looks the part too, growing in dense, chunky, bulky buds that often show off beautiful purple hues, all covered in a thick layer of frosty trichomes. So when you add all of that up, the heavy effect, the couch lock body high, the unforgettable terpene-driven flavor, the beautiful buds, it's easy to see why Bubba Kush became one of the most sought-after indicas on the entire planet. It exploded in popularity right alongside OG Kush in those early Los Angeles days, earning High Times Cannabis Cup recognition along the way, and becoming a cornerstone of West Coast weed and a permanent staple in dispensaries everywhere. And its influence did not stop there, because it became one of the most important parent plants in all of breeding, getting crossed to create literally hundreds of other strains, passing its heavy, relaxing genetics down through entire family trees of weed. Modern favorites like Kush Mints and even Wedding Cake carry Bubba Kush genetics in their lineage, which tells you everything about how far that one accidental pollination event has reached. So at the end of the day, Bubba Kush, the original pre-98 cut, is the perfect example of lightning in a bottle. It is a world-famous, deeply beloved strain that, by the best account we have, only exists because of a single stressed-out plant and a happy accident in a cramped Los Angeles apartment. Nobody set out to create it, and yet it went on to become one of the most legendary and sought-after indicas the world has ever known. A true icon, born entirely by chance.